All right, everyone. So today I want to talk about something a little bit different. Maybe not so different. Well, lately I've been talking about gear crunches, things like that. So what I want to share with you all, and this was requested by one of my Discord members, we're going to be talking about Armory 14 and Armory 15 Orbs. Now, this is a bit of a weird one, but you guys know that there's a lot of new characters coming hard and fast, characters that you're going to want to gear, and I don't know about you all, but at least for me, you know, I'm basically running out of a lot of my gear because of, you know, my Dark Dimension 3 or my Dark Dimension 4, you know, supplies, largely to do with minis, you know, so my regular orange gear and my Origin orange gear is typically pretty good, but what's not really good with me is actually a lot of my mini supplies for characters that I am spending a lot in right now. So today we're going to be going over a spreadsheet that I built that basically talks about all of the Armory 14 and 15 orbs that you get on a monthly basis, and then we're going to talk about exactly what I think that you should be doing with regards to this, especially with some pretty high profile characters coming down the road. You know, hint hint, Apocalypse probably, maybe Excalibur, maybe some more big characters that you're going to want to gear that maybe you're not going to have the gear to do so. So that's on the agenda for today. So without further ado, let's get this show started. And so this got me to build this spreadsheet here. Now, it's very simple. It's a very simplified spreadsheet here. It's what I call the Armory 14-15 orb math. And to be honest, there's not a lot here to really look at, but it goes to show how little amount of Armory 14 and 15 orbs, and just more generally, tier 14 and 15 pieces that we do get. And I probably could have fixed this up a little bit better, but we're going to go over this together. So here we have the sources, and maybe I should have centered this a little bit better so it looks a little bit nicer. There we go. So we have the raid season. We have, for the purposes of this video, we're going to be talking about Doom 1, and we're going to, I'll let you know why. So raid season, Doom 1, high roller, save the world, which all these are the milestones essentially. So for the raid season, it lasts for 14 days. Now, in terms of the amount of Armory 14 and 15 orbs that you get out of this by the end of it, and this is assuming that you complete it, you get 4 Armory 14 orbs and 2 Armory 15 orbs. Now, where you see here in the decimals, the reason why I did this is essentially fragments. So here, if you were to do daily Doom 1 60%, every single day, you would get 200 orb fragments for an Armory 15 orb. So this is equivalent to 400. I meant to say 400. That's equivalent to 0.2 or 20% of a Armory 15 orb if you do that daily. Now the reason why, and we're gonna pivot really quickly. Actually, I don't know why I had that window open. I'm pivoting really quickly because when we talk about Doom 1, and there's a reason why I bring this up, because when you do Doom 2, you don't get this anymore. So I'm sure for those of you who are familiar with Doom 1 and Doom 2, you actually stop getting Armory Orb fragments when you're doing this. So these are the rewards for Doom 2, 30%. You get raid credits, you get T4s, you get Orange Elite Orbs, you get the blue ISO orb stuff that you can open, and you get teal gear fragments. And then what you don't get is there's no Armory Orbs. That's been dumped. So if we go back and we take a look at Doom 1 really quickly again, and you go, it doesn't really matter. It's actually both the same, Doom 1 First Strike and Doom 1. If you check the rewards for Doom 1, well, lo and behold, Armory 15 orb fragments are back on the menu here for Doom 1, and they are dropped in Doom 2. Now, this is very similar to, like, say, going from Ultima 6 to Ultima 7, where you lose blues, right? I think blues you get out of Ultima 6, and there's no blues in Ultima 7, but you get purples. And then when you jump to Doom, you don't get purples anymore. So this has been a long-standing issue where as you move up through the raids, that actually you lose resources or things just not are added on. Basically, stuff is dropped in favor of something new. So why does this not continue? And why do you not continue to get Armory 15 orbs? Why do you not continue to get, blue or purple ability materials and higher up raids? That part of things never really made sense to me. So here at 60%, And now this is kind of assuming that you get rank 1 to 2. I know not everyone's doing that, but it had a really nice number at 400 fragments. I didn't really want to add 390, 380. You know, this would have made a really stupid number. But if you get to, if you get to 100% though, you do get like half of an Armory 15 orb, and that's a pretty big difference, I guess. But for the purposes of this video and for the spreadsheet math, we are just looking at 400 fragments. So that's why I wanted to let you guys know about that really quick. So that is 0.2 of an orb overall. Now, where the rest of the Armory Orbs are going to come from, that's going to come from the High Roller, from the various milestones. So you get the High Roller, this is the gold spending milestone, this is every day. Now, for the purposes of this, we're looking at it from a 1 million gold per day spent. A lot of people kind of just go up to there and stop, because this is a pretty reasonable place to go for the milestone. Save the world. We're also using about 800 energy daily. This is more than the 600 that you're required to do, but I think that on average, a lot of people do this, and this is over the course of 2 days. We also have the World Warrior, which is over 7 days, and we have a grand total of orbs over 28 days. So I just multiplied this up a little bit. So you don't get a lot. If you see here for the High Roller, it's not a lot. You get 50. I don't know if you can see this. 50 fragments of Armory 14 orbs over the course of 1 million gold. Now that's equivalent of like 2.5% of an Armory 14 orb every day, which is awful. That's one Armory 14 orb every 40 days, I think. Just really quick mental math here. And that's the same with the Armory 15. 40 days of 1 million gold spending to get a single Armory 14 and 15 orb. That is rough. Now, you actually get more out of the energy spending, but this is every 2 days. You get 10% of an Armory 14 orb and 5% of an Armory 15 orb every 2 days. This is not very good either. The World Warrior is a little bit more, but again, it's over 7 days, so really it's actually still pretty terrible as well. You get 60% of an Armory 14 orb and almost half of an Armory 15 orb every 7 days on the World Warrior, assuming that you're clearing this. What does this mean? Well, at the grand total, if you multiply this all up over the course of 28 days, you are getting a grand spanking total of 12 Armory 14 orbs and 7 Armory 15 orbs. Thank you, Scopely. That sounds great. Now, where else do you get Armory 14 and 15 orbs? Well, you guys might have remembered that the Magic event, milestone, actually had a fairly significant amount of Armory 14 and 15 orbs. So that right now is kind of where you're getting a lot of these orbs, outside of because this is shit. Let's be honest, this is shit. So you're really going to be getting a lot of these other orbs from event milestones. How frequently that happens, honestly, it's like every couple of months that these kind of things happen that give you these kind of milestones. So it's okay, but it's not great. So don't be thinking that you'd be relying on these events to come back around in order to actually get the gear that you need. But what does this mean in terms of T14 and 15 pieces? That's why I have these columns here, in case you were wondering why they were there. So for Armory 14 orbs, you get 3 pieces per orb. And so I just multiplied this by 3, and you're getting about 36 pieces per for all this for a month. For Armory 15, you actually get 4 pieces per orb, so I multiplied this by 4, and you get 28.8 or 29. I know it's a weird number, whatever. Anyways, you do get some additional T14 and 15 pieces out of the RTA pass, which lasts for 28 days. I just want to center this just for my own sake here, and you get 30 T14 pieces and 40 T15 pieces if you max out the RTA pass. That's roughly 2 of each of the origins here for the 14s and 4 of each for the G15 pieces. So that is pretty interesting there. Now, the grand total at the end of the day, how many T14 and 15 pieces do you get in a 28-day period? Well, it's not a lot. You get 66 T14 pieces and 69 rounding up, or 68 rounding down, because technically you can't get half of a piece, for T15s. Now, what does that mean? Typically, a gear item, requires you to have about 15 of each of these minis, and then I think for T15s you need 18. I think for one gear fully crafted piece. Keep in mind that this is across all of the origins. These are 66 pieces across all of the origins here, and 68, 69 across all the origins for T15 as well. This is really, really bad. So what does that tell us? Well, there is a huge deficit of tier 14 and 15 gear pieces, because if you're like me, I've not actually spent a lot of time buying them. You might be in a similar position to me, where, if you're in the late game, what do I do with my supply store? Well, I'm buying teal gear pieces. I don't buy teal gear catalysts or the ABCs because I farm this daily in Doom War Chapter 4. However, I do buy this teal gear and kind of other teal origin pieces that show up, and superior teal uniques, or whatever you want to call them, in there as well. I'll tell you what I don't do anymore, or what I didn't do for a long time. I stopped buying tier 14 minis, and for some of them I have a lot. Like for bio, I have a lot. What I don't have a lot of is mutant. Mutant and Mystic are some of an all-time low for me right now, especially after the Eternals, after New Warriors. You know, I dumped a lot of resources into Mystic, and I'm kind of saving some Mutant, but I don't have a lot to begin with. So certain Origin pieces I do have more of than others. You know, you could 280, but this is going to go pretty fast once I start leveling up and gearing up my Web Warriors more. So, you know, who knows, right? You know, maybe I might run out pretty soon. But I haven't bought tier 14 or 15 minis in a very, very long time. I've just never done that. So where do you come up with the difference? Well, I mean, you could go back to buying them from the store if you have a lot of gold, if you want to. But for everyone else, I think what I would normally recommend, and a lot of people are holding on to their war stuff while I want to talk about this. You know, some people are spending their war credits on teal gear, and that's understandably. But for the elite war credits, I don't know about you guys, but I've been hoarding onto this in the hopes of a teal gear war orb. So I haven't been opening for months, maybe half a year. I don't know how long I've been hoarding. I haven't been opening these Orange Gear War Orb 1 or 2 to get minis because I've been hoarding in the hopes of a Teal Gear War Orb. So I don't know if that Teal Gear War Orb is coming, but I have a crap ton of Elite War credits that probably could have been, you know, helpful on any of these fronts for 14s and 15s. But what I do recommend, and I mentioned this in my Mutant video when I talked about gear crunching there, is that I think that you guys need to consider that, you know, you might need to move from shard farming certain characters if they're not that important to really considering farming and making sure that you 3-star a lot of the nodes in the Do More campaign. A lot of your gear tier 14 and 15 gear is going to come from farming this stuff. Now, what I do is I typically, you know, do more chapter 4. Most of us do. If we haven't unlocked, you're probably doing this because you're getting teal catalysts on the daily, which is great. And some of these actually do have, you know, gear tier 15, 14 minis. So 4-8, for example, like I have a lot more of these than I have the other one. I forget what it's called. This is the G15 Mystic Mini, but I have like 195. If you look at my other one, I probably have less than 100. That's because I'm farming this daily as part of my teal gear farm, which is great. So any of these ones that double, like this one, the mutant one, I have more of these. I think on 4. Yeah, you get the bio one. So I have a lot of these, 369 of the hyperphages, because that, again, all of these are there on these nodes. 4.2, the remote access code for G15. So, you know, you're getting a lot of these as collateral, I suppose, as you're farming the teal. But there's a lot of them that get left behind, and I want to kind of mention this one particularly as well. I have a lot, that's because tech characters suck right now, and there hasn't been a big crunch on tech gear, so I have a lot of this saved up. But what I would recommend, there's certain nodes in like Do More chapter, even from 1, that I would consider, especially if you're in a crunch in certain gear aspects for 14 or 15. So this is the one that I farm occasionally for Mystic here. This is the Superior Mythic Geode. That was the one I couldn't remember. So if you saw what I had for the other one, the other G15 Mystic, I had like, what was it, 190? So I only have about 110 here. But I have been farming a little bit more of these lately, just in the hopes that, you know, what happens if another great Mystic character comes out and I need to gear them? If they're like 4 or 5, you know, it's a lot. Sometimes characters require a lot of gear in order to, like a Hela or a Bishop, you know, requires a lot of mini sets. So don't be under any illusion that if you're at like 200, you might not be as safe as you might think that you are. So farming some of these are really important. You don't have to do this necessarily daily, this far back, but I would consider it maybe every other day. Just, you know, keep it in your mind somewhere that you might need to go back and farm some of these. Because these are, yeah, Shogoth Iker, 230. I'll tell you, my baby account has like none of these. So I really need to get on to getting to this node, particularly on my baby account. Here's 3.2 for the phytonutrients. Okay, so this is the mutant one. Do you guys remember how many I had from the other G15 mutant one? I have 160 phytonutrients. That's 3.2. But for 4, where is it? For this one, 4.7, I have 242. So that one's a pretty big difference, because that's what happens when you're not farming them daily, I guess. And that makes a huge difference. Molecular scans, this is a good one here at 3.1. But specifically, I want to talk about G14s. And that's when we get to Doom 2 and 2.1. Sorry, Doom 1 and Doom 2 chapters. So some of these are really important, but not these ones. These sigils you need less of than some of the other ones. What are important, though, is this one. Doom 2.7, Adaptive Pathogens. So I'm going to assume that if any of you have geared your mutants to a larger degree, you probably don't have as many of these as you think. Because Doom 2.7 is not a node that you're actively farming, so I would consider every now and then, maybe even every 2 days, go back to this Doom 2.7 and farm this one, at least for 100 energy, because that'll get you more of these. And that saves you from having to spend whatever they cost now in the store. I think it's like 25k a piece, I don't remember. But then you don't have to do that. That's gold that you're not spending on these minis because you're just farming them with energy. Now, however you get that energy, that's up to you. How many cores a day you do, that's entirely up to you. But I do recommend, diverting your shard farming into gear farming. Unless the character is super important, like Cap Sam, and unfortunately, Cap Sam does not have any uniques, any minis on his node, but there's only a handful of nodes that I would consider in the late game to farm. And Cap Sam is definitely one of them, but he's the only one that I farm every single day. So I'm going to do that right now. He is the only shard character that I farm and I didn't, and fuck, I didn't even get any Cap Sam. But he's the only character that I farm every single day. Other than that, he's the only shard character, and everything else goes into gear. And you know what? And this one's a good one too, actually, just because it has a G14 mini and a G15 mini. This one here, Doom 2.5, is a really good one as well. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to be farming some adaptive pathogens because I need a little bit more. And hey, I got 2, and that's great. And that's an extra 50k gold I didn't have to spend in the supply store. So that's good there. There's another one, actually, very early on. Some people may have forgot about this one. Doom 1, no, where is it? 1, 2. So this is the other G14 mutant gear. Superior isochronal compounds. Now, I have a little bit more of these than I do from the other G14, but this is what I want you guys to kind of recognize, that double check how many G14 you actually have for each of the origins, and maybe consider farming this. G15 is a little bit easier to get away with because I think that not everyone is gearing to 15 necessarily. A lot of people are gearing up to the gear 14 level. So I think that you're more likely to lose more G14 minis overall than you are G15 minis, because a lot of people go to G14, not everyone goes to G15. So that's a little bit of a difference there. And like I said, you are getting some G15 minis out of Do More Chapter 4, which a lot of people are farming anyways for teal gear. So that's something there that I want to kind of recognize. Here, I find that a lot of the gear that's in Do More 1 and 2, Chapters 1 and 2, often get left behind because people don't really farm those ones very much. So I think that you need to really consider that. These Celestial Lattices, not on this account, but on my baby account, is pretty low as well. There's some of these that, maybe you might be running low on. So do check what your supplies are every now and then, and maybe it might surprise you, and that kind of might maybe think that you need to go back to some of these to farm them. So that's basically this video. I just kind of wanted to share with you how the low amount of Armory 14, 15 orbs you get. Overall, the amount of G14 and 50 minis that are coming into the game is not that much. So I think a lot of this is going to be compensated from farming, from the campaigns, if you don't want to spend in the supply store and save your gold for other things, like for teal gear that you probably should be buying if you're in the end game. But you can't forget that T14 and 15 minis are something that's going to be very crucially important, and it's only a matter of time until people actually run out or start running out and realizing that the crunch is there. So don't wait until it's too late. Start farming now. Make sure you're on top of your gearing, and make sure you have a lot saved for newer characters that are coming out every single week. There's a new character coming out that you're going to need to gear or probably want to gear, but are you going to have the gear to do it? And that's this video. So until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.